redirected. Score! Game 7! Montez St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! Cavalier spinning. Cavalier looking. Trying to drop it off. Brings it in himself. Left it in the middle. Shot. Score!
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Thunderstruck with your host, Philip Wunderlich, and of course, your co-host, Jake Ricker. What's going on, Jake?
Nothing much. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm a little under the weather, but, can't complain too much here. The Bulls have been playing pretty well. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, we've been doing good. We've lost 2 games out of our last 5, I believe, which is funny because, that's pretty normal for most NHL teams, but we've been playing so good that it almost seems a little weird. But we've been doing good. We've had a little bit of a break here now. We've had the whole second to last week of January off, so I'm excited to get back into the swing of things tomorrow so we can see our boys play again.
You're right. Like you said, it's kind of unusual for us to lose at 2 of the last 5, but at the same time, it's kind of normal. You're not going to win every game. But looking at the standings, of course, we're still in first. And it's kind of interesting to see who's in second place in the standings in the East. If you look at the standings, you're going to find the New York Islanders, as of right now, in second place. It's kind of shocking, too, because, they don't have to fire us anymore either, because he's now on the Leafs. What do you think about the standings so far, Jake?
Well, it's interesting. There's been a little bit of a change in them over the last couple of weeks here. As for the Islanders, though, that's, I think, a credit to Barry Trotz and how good of a coach he's been. He obviously was the coach of the Capitals when they won their first Stanley Cup, and then he comes in to an Islanders team that's had some changes over the last 3 years, and they had an okay start, and then now they're ramping things up or at the top of their division. So, a very good team. So it'll be exciting to see if they can keep this up here in the next month or two.
Yeah, and like you said, too, before the show, it's kind of interesting to see that the Washington Capitals, the team that bumped us out of the Eastern Conference Finals, they're kind of on a losing streak right now. I know regular season doesn't matter as much, but at the same time, if you continue falling, obviously you're not going to make it. Is there any concerns with the Caps right now?
No, I don't think so. Every team is going to go through their big rough patches. This happens. You don't see this to every team, but it's going to happen. They're on a 7-game losing streak right now. Personally, I'm okay with it because my big rival is the Capitals, but they'll be fine. And I think we're playing them in a couple days here. I think we have not played them yet at all this year, which is a little surprising. Yeah. But by that time, I think it'll be another good game. So. They'll be fine. It's just another rough patch, which every team goes through in sports.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a little revenge, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so backtracking a little bit here, guys. We did get a little ahead of ourselves, but, it's kind of interesting to see, actually, Jake, looks like we lost 3 out of the last 5. No, 2 out of the last 5, you're right. 2. We lost to the Islanders and the Leafs. So backing up here to the Buffalo Sabres, we won that game 5-3, which is always nice. Getting a couple points on the Atlantic Division rivals there. But during this game, Mikhail Sergachev was fined for a cross-check on Johan Larsson. I didn't think it was too much of a cross-check there. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the worst play in the world. It wasn't a Tom Wilson kind of hit. But, I think the NHL did make the right choice here. He's a young player, so they gave him a little bit of a fine, and he'll learn from this and get better from it. I don't think it's too big of a deal. There was, everybody's okay. I don't think there was a huge injury or a long sustaining injury anyway, so a fine's a fine. He didn't get suspended for it, which is good. So, I think this is a learning moment for Sergachev, and he'll move on from this.
Right. And then the next following game here is the game that we did lose. You know, the Islanders is a team that we were just talking about and how great they've been. And the only person to score in this entire game was McDonough, losing 5-1. Uh, you said that Grice played pretty well in this one, huh?
Yeah, the Islanders play a very good game. They shut down the Bolts offense, which is something that we know is very hard to do. It's the Lightning offense has just been so good for so long, and they did a great job of shutting it down. One thing I noticed when watching this game is that the Islanders were constantly jumping on top of Bolts players as soon as they touched the puck. They made sure that Stamkos and Kucherov did not get any separation from their players. They've always had a person on them, making sure that they didn't slip away, which is, I think, a huge reason of why they won this game. And that's just a credit to them. Hopefully the Lightning will learn from this too in the near future and be able to find ways to work around that when that does happen. But I think that was a big reason of why they did win that game.
Yeah. And the goaltending has been really great for the Islanders as well. The following game is the last game on the road trip, and we played the Dallas Stars, and we got the 2-0 victory over the Stars. Ben Bishop did not play in this one, but Vazzy got another shutout, and you can never complain with a Vazzy shutout.
No, not at all. And he's been so good after these losses because he's just been so competitive. It's really cool to see, to be honest with you. And so that was a game. I think most Bulls fans expected to win because he's been so good. I believe he's still undefeated after a loss, which is just remarkable, and has one of the highest save percentages in the league after a loss. So he is just so stellar. So that was an easy and good win for the Bolts there to get back on track.
Yeah, and it's always nice, just like you said, just to not worry too much about a back-to-back loss. You don't want to start losing games either. The following game was a loss. We came back home and played the Leafs, and it's really going to be a playoff type atmosphere anytime you play the Leafs. It's likely to be a possible second round opponent there, so it's going to be one of those heated battles against that team.
Yeah, anytime you play one of those top teams, that's the type of game you're going to get. That's the kind of game you hope to get, to be honest with you. Anderson stole this game, though, for the Leafs. I mean, he just played absolutely outstanding. He was making stops left and right. He played like Bassey has played for a lot of this season. Lightning had 38 shots on goal, and he stopped a ton of them. And he made some really good quality saves. The Lightning threw everything they had at him, especially at the end of the third period there, and he kept them off the board. So credit to Anderson in that game. And I don't think the Lightning played a terrible game there, and those are going to happen. But the big thing, like we've mentioned, is Vasi and the team has done so well after these losses. So when you look at a 7-game series, yes, the Leafs got the best of us in this one, but it's hard to see the Lightning losing a 7-game series right now because of how good they are after losses.
Right. And, it's Freddie has always been a great goaltender. I got to see him here in Anaheim when he played, and then he went to the Leafs, and, he's kind of really taken off since he left Anaheim. He was always good here too, but it's kind of nice to see a goalie battle against two great goaltenders. The following game was also at home, and we got a little revenge against the Sharks. The only two people that scored for the Sharks was Evander Kane, who scored twice, and Sorensen. And again, it's always nice to come back to from a loss and get that win.
Absolutely. Again, I've mentioned this before, but Lightning came back and played really well. And I talked about how Vasi is so much of a competitor, and it really showed in this game. Phil, I don't know if you saw, but at the very end of that game, the Sharks scored with about a minute left to go, I think. I was fortunate enough to go to this game, and Vasi was just furious. He smashed his stick against the net and broke it, and there was a little bit of a delay while they went and got him a new stick. And then after the game, once the Lightning had won, because we were up 6-3 at that point, or 6-2 and then 6-3 at that point, his teammates went to congratulate him, and Vasi was having none of it. He wanted to get right off. He didn't even bother doing the stick salute. He went right to the locker room. So he was really upset and not happy about it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't watch it. I was at work. It was a game we did not cover on Twitter, unfortunately. But it's that's how he is. I mean, if he always wants to play at the top of his performance, and if he has a bad game or he makes a big mistake, he always wants to correct it right away, and he always is hard on himself. I mean, his toughest critic is himself, kind of like Nikita Kucherov, how he feels the same way.
Right, and Kucherov has been known to do some of that stuff, not to this extreme, though. And that's what I was thinking, though, when I saw this personally. I thought, good for him for being tough on himself and wanting to be the best of the best. But do you think it was a little extreme? Because personally, I feel like, holy cow, he was really upset. It's not a big deal, obviously, but to me, I just feel like it was a little bit over the top. But
right. No, I understand where you're coming from. And I think it's kind of the heat of the moment type deal too.
Right. That's understandable.
So I wouldn't consider him like a maybe somebody might call him a crybaby or something like that, but I wouldn't go that far. Speaking of Nikita Kucherov, he's been really continuing his top performance this season, but it's kind of interesting that there was a recent article by Drager that said that he might win the Hart, and the interesting thing about Nikita Kucherov is what I said earlier, is that the toughest critic is himself, so it's only like he can play better almost.
Right, any player can play better, but Kucherov, he's the one that will be a little bit visual about it. And he really has continued to keep up his pace, though. I mean, he's just been a guy that's almost been under the radar. He's not making all these super crazy plays that are super noticeable, but he's continuing to play at a high level along with all these other high-level players. So he is definitely, I think, a candidate for the Hart. He deserves to be mentioned in this race because he's doing so good. He still leads the league in points currently, and I don't see any signs that he's going to be slowing down anytime soon. So it's really exciting to see him go. He's got 78 currently with Rantanen, who's the one behind him, is at 74. So he's got 4 points over the second place leader, which doesn't seem like much, but can be a big difference.
Yeah, and if you look at the scoring though, Braden Point is second in goals, correct?
Yes, that's correct, with 30.
Yeah, and he has some pretty tough competition. I mean, the top goal scorer in the league right now is Alex Ovechkin. So it's nice to see that our second line player is almost better than a top line player.
Better than most top line players on other teams too. Yeah. I mean, Point, he's having a breakout year. He's been unbelievable. Which is really great to see. It's such a bummer he didn't get to participate in the All-Star game, but I think that just fuels him even more for the rest of the season here to show everybody like I'm a top-tier NHL player and I deserve to be in All-Star game. So it's going to be exciting to see if he can keep this up for the rest of the season. I think he will. There's really no big signs that would say otherwise, but we'll see what happens. Maybe, just maybe, he can overtake Ovechkin in the goal race, which would be unlikely, but you never know.
Exactly. But it's nice to see that. And speaking of the All-Star game, the Atlantic Division unfortunately did not win the overall thing, and it was a Metro Division. And everybody's favorite player, Sidney Crosby, got the MVP. But it's kind of cool to see how the top performers in the league compete and just have a good time. But did you see that goal by Steven Stamkos and how great that one was?
Oh my goodness, I had to go wash my hands every time I watched that goal. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was a really fun one to watch. Personally, Phil, I really like the All-Star game. I enjoy it. You can really tell that most of these players or all of them, I think, really do enjoy this. It's a fun time. It's pretty fun for the fans. When I got to go to the All-Star game in Tampa last year, that was a ton of fun. And it really is a great experience. So it was really fun to watch. But Crosby played good, though. Credit to him for that. But, Stamkos obviously definitely had the best goal, I think, of the night, where he went under the legs and then got it just under the glove of Lundqvist. He even tripped himself in the process, which made it even better.
Yeah, it is a hell of a goal. Unfortunately, I've never been to an All-Star game. I was going to go. It's kind of interesting because, last year we were going to try to go to the All-Star game, but we kind of fell short on money. And this time we were going to go to the San Jose, but my fiance just got a job for the TSA. So it's there's little things that unfortunately couldn't make it. The only experience that I've ever had was going to LA and trying to get autographs from the players, and it was kind of nice because I got a Steve Yzerman picture with him, and it was always good fun there. Just hanging out with the players themselves, and it's nice to see them in their element.
Oh, absolutely. And the skills competition as well is also a ton of fun. Let's talk about that, though. How about Vasi and the save streak? I think that was one of my favorites from the skills night.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to give it up to Vasi. I mean, he unfortunately fell a little bit short, but he did have a heck of a save streak there going. The king, Henrik Lundqvist, eventually got the save streak with, I believe, 12 shots saved, and Vasi got 7.
He had 8.
8. Apologize, 8. So it's nice to see Vasi do so well. Again, it shows his skill. And I don't know if you heard, but Henrik Lundqvist before the game, he said he was asked who the best goalie in the league was, and he said Andrei Vasilevsky. So it was kind of like a one-up type deal between them two.
Right, game recognizes game, as they say. So that was, obviously, I'm sure an honor for Vasi. It was a little unfortunate, I think, that Vasi, of course, he only let up one goal, but that goal was on the ninth shooter, which meant his streak was over. But, still fun to watch nonetheless. And he, again, showed off a couple of saves there where his flexibility is by far the best of any goaltender. I think that's what really has made him so special, is that he can stretch literally from almost post to post and still make these saves. I mean, Claude Giroux made a really nice move on him, but, Vasi stretched that toe out and still made the stop.
Right. And it was a hell of a night. I enjoyed watching both the skills competition and, I unfortunately worked during the All-Star game itself, but I did watch most of it when I came home and saw the highlights, and I recorded on the DVR, so
I don't know if
I got to see most of it.
I don't know if you saw, Phil, but when they were watching Vasi doing the save streak, they went and interviewed Stamkos and asked him about Vasi, and Stamkos had said, "I'll tell you what, you can't score on him down low." And then they asked him, they said, "Well, where can you score on Vasi?" And he took a minute to think about this question, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you after the playoffs." So that was a pretty funny moment in the skills competition.
Yeah, and then, it's a good group of guys we have on the Lightning too. I mean, you can see that they have always a good time with each other, and that's what you kind of have to have. I mean, you have the camaraderie between players. You saw Vegas last year and how good of time they had, and you can see the Lightning this year, and it's always nice when you're winning, but at the same time, it's the locker room interactions that are also working out and helping the team along the way.
Right, chemistry is very important. It's an underrated thing in sports that many people don't realize. This goes back to the whole Jonathan Drouin saga. That's one of the reasons why, it was a good thing to get him out of there, because he was not good for the locker room, whereas everybody else right now is just clicking and having that such good locker room chemistry. That's why a lot of teams won't trade for some top tier players, because they don't have good locker room chemistry with some of the other guys.
Right. But that's how we go with the All-Star game, and he had a great time. But coming back to the Lightning here, We do have some tough games coming up here, Jake, and it all starts with the. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought here.
Pittsburgh Penguins.
Pittsburgh Penguins on Wednesday night. Wednesday night rivalry will be on NBCSN, of course, and it's always a good time when you see the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Lightning because you always know that they both have great offense and defensive capability.
Yeah, this will be a fun one. If I'm not mistaken, I'm double checking right now. We have played the Penguins once here. Played them back in November. We beat them 4-3, but it's been a little while since we've played these guys. So this will be a fun game. Pittsburgh obviously still a pretty good team. I think this is going to be this will be a high scoring affair. I think for the Bolts. Having so long off now, it's been about a week and a half now. I think once we get to tomorrow. So we'll see if they come out a little rusty here. Hopefully not, but I think that'll be a big factor in this game. Is who's going to have the least amount of rust when they first come out in that first period.
Right. And, then we continue the road trip. We head to New York again, and we play the Islanders and the Rangers. The Islanders are, like we mentioned many times already in this podcast, a great team. And the Rangers are not so great. I mean, that's the team that you also got – that's the thing, too, with the Bolts, though. I mean, these teams that you think, we're going to win against them, and then you turn up losing. So, you can't take any team lightly.
Right, of course. And the Lightning and the Rangers have a little bit of a history as well, going back to the playoffs. And, of course, a lot of the players who obviously come from the New York Rangers. So this will still be a fun game to watch, I think. It should be a nice competitive one. Obviously, you're expecting the Bolts to win that game, but just like you said, you never know. So I think it'll still be a fun game, though. Because of the history between these two teams. And the Islanders won as well with that team being so hot as of recent, So we'll see what happens here. I think Vasi will probably play against the Islanders, and I think it's going to be more than likely we'll see Domingue take on the Rangers with this back-to-back. We haven't had too many back-to-backs this season, so this is another one coming up here, though.
Yeah, and it's always kind of fun to see back-to-backs as well, because you don't have to worry about so much about how many days are we going out without hockey? Because it's right around the corner and right the next day.
That's true.
This long streak of no games has been taking a toll on me. So.
Yeah, all of the other NHL fans as well.
Yeah, and then the following game that we're going to kind of talk about is the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights are back to form. I mean, they didn't start so well in the beginning of the season there, but they're back to form, and so that should be a great game as well as they come to Tampa.
For sure, another fun game that'll be in Tampa, like you said. So, that'll be a fun game to watch. So, another game I say this all the time. You always expect the Bolts to win just because we've been so good. A lot of this is going to be, are the Lightning going to keep up their pace? Until they start to tail off a little bit here, if they do, you expect the Bolts to win all of these games. So we'll see what happens, though. I think it should be a good game nonetheless. We did play Vegas earlier on in the season. It was the very beginning. Beat them 3-2 this season. So, and if you remember from last year, all the games we've played against Vegas have been very close games. So it should be another close one. I don't see it going any other way.
And it was kind of interesting to see, too, about the Vegas Golden Knights. It's like it's a Western team playing an Eastern style. Because if you look at the East, they're more of a fast-paced team versus a physical team. So it's the only person that I really see physical on the Golden Knights, of course, is Ryan Reeves. So it's going to be an interesting game considering they play the similar style as we do.
Right, yeah. And most of the NHL is becoming, a fast-paced league, and heating has become more secondary. But the Lightning still have a couple of players on our team that can hit, so it gives us, I think, a little bit of a leg up there. But like I said, it'll be a good game.
Yeah, and then the one more thing we got to talk about here, Jake, is a trade yesterday. Jake Muzzin went to the went from the LA Kings to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We had a fan question here by El Padrino. He actually writes for us. Do you think that the Lightning need to make a trade to kind of, like you said earlier, one up the Maple Leafs, almost making it into an arm race? And what do you think about the individual trade for the Jake Muzzin there?
Well, first of all, the trade for Muzzin specifically, I think that was a great trade by the Leafs. The defense has been on the hot seat as of recent in Toronto, so acquiring a player like Jake Muzzin, who is very good, is a great move for them. So I like this trade for the Leafs and for the Kings as well, because they're obviously in a rebuilding state. They're not doing good this year, and they got a first-round pick out of it. So it was a good trade for both teams. As for the Lightning needing to one-up it, no, I don't think they need to do that at all, and I don't think they will. As we mentioned in the last podcast, we don't see the Lightning doing much at the trade deadline because we have one of the best teams in the NHL, and there's not many categories that we can improve greatly on. Now, obviously, everybody can improve, but especially with our cap situation and the way it will be in the next couple of years, I don't see anything happening.
Yeah, the only couple of things I can see, if you look at the rental players, I can kind of see maybe getting Wayne Simmons. I know his name has been thrown out there a few times to the Lightning. So if he would come over, it would be a rental type deal. We wouldn't be able to sign him, obviously, because we have the contract extension for Braden Point that we still need to do in the off season. Or someone like Brian Boyle might come back. His name has been thrown there as well by NHL Network. They kind of say that we need a more physical presence. And, of course, Brian Boyle is one of those type of players, and he's a rental as well, considering his contract ends at the end of the season.
Yeah, I disagree with that, though, with what NHL Network is saying anyway, that we need more physicality. Sure, we're not the most physical team, but, we've got guys like Cedric Paquette, who I believe is still fourth in the NHL in hits. We can throw the body around. We've proven that a couple times in some of these games that have been more physical. For example, the Vancouver game, if you guys remember. So I don't think we need those guys. I don't think it's worth getting rental players because of all the talent that we have down in the AHL and how well rookies have played for us this year. Look at Matthew Joseph. He's had a fantastic season. He's one of the better rookies in the NHL behind Patterson, obviously. So I don't think it's worth it to even bother with a rental when you've got rookies that can come up and play this good.
Yeah. That's the thing, too. Because what do you want to really give up for a rental player? Those are nice pieces, but at the same time, do you really want to give up your future? I guess you could say for a rental player, and I don't see Breezewall really doing that. I know Yzerman would never really buy any rental players. So
right, and remember he still is assisting.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it still goes with him too. If you're going to look for advice, you always go to Yzerman there. So I don't think that it's going to happen, but those are a couple of names that have been thrown out there. It's like I said, it's going to be interesting come trade deadline because. There's a lot of people that do have expiring deals at the end of the season. But the main one that we have to care about is Braden Point in the off season. And we talked about this before. Braden Point, he might have a $7.5 million deal. We don't know what he's going to ask for. But that's the thing. You got to care about the cap more than anything.
Yeah, and I know Yzerman will have prepared your boys. I still can't say his last name properly. Prepared him well for this, and they'll make a deal. I'm sure they'll get a nice deal done. But I think you make a good point, though. I think if we're going to see any trades, they're more than likely going to happen towards free agency. Because I know the Lightning thought process this year is go all in. This is the year. We've got to win it. We've been in this window for long enough now where people are starting to say, okay, it's time to win win the cup. So their goal is to go all in. So I'm sure if a deal pops up to get a really good rental player, they'll do it. But I don't think it's on the forefront. I don't think they're specifically going after guys like Simmons and Boyle to go grab. But of course, if you have any situation like that pop up, you're going to take the opportunity if it shows itself.
Right. One last thing. In order to get that Braden Point deal done, it's kind of be interesting because it makes it so that way our we have to rely on Cal Foot to come up, because I don't think that we're going to be able to re-sign a bunch of defensemen. And then you're going to have to maybe trade that Killorn deal. I don't know who wants that deal with a $5.5 million cap hit, but it's going to be interesting. And one last thing I think that might happen is a buyout for Callahan.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I think if anybody goes, it's going to be Callahan because of his deal, and he is getting a little bit older. I have no idea what his retirement plans are, if he would consider retiring. If, for example, if we win a Stanley Cup this year, who knows? But I think Callahan is the first to go, and then Killorn. But Braden Point is the guy you're definitely going to re-sign. But I think for Bolts fans, you don't have to be too worried because of the talent that we got down in the NHL. We've got a lot of guys that I'm very excited to see come up here. For example, Cal Foot and a couple of other forwards like Volkov. And the one other guy from, I can't remember his name, I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's a big time goal scorer, so I'm not too worried about it. I think we'll be okay, but Callahan is, in my mind, the first one that would lead the team, especially if we win the cup. That could make a big factor.
Yeah, it would, and he is getting up there in age, and he's not always been healthy for us either, so that's one person that I'm kind of keep an eye on for. And we do still have the Ryan Callahan Foundation money that we do at the end of the year, but it's gonna it's gonna be interesting to see what happens to him.
Yeah, Ryan Callahan's 33, so he's actually not too old, but his age has definitely shown more than most players.
Yeah, and I think that'll about wrap it up.
Wait, hang on, Phil. We got one more thing. The Lightning were wearing some interesting uniforms at practice the other day, pointed out by the Lightning insider Eric Anderson. They had their black helmets and black pants on, and Domingue even had some special pads on, black and silver new pads. So, as he mentioned it, he's not saying anything, but I think we might be seeing a new third jersey very soon.
Yeah. We've been kind of looking at that for the most of the season here. So it's kind of like jersey watch again. But like you said, it's going to be interesting considering they did have the black and silver pants and the new pads for Domingue, as well as those black helmets. So it's going to be interesting there as well. We did see something by Aesthetics that's kind of looking like the Infinity War jersey, as I like to call it, because you're fading out. But it's going to be interesting. We probably could see it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think it'll be very soon. The pads would suggest, like you mentioned, that's going to be the jerseys that we're going to see. Me personally, I'm not, like I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of these, so I'm kind of hoping that's not the case. Although it's weird because if these jerseys were leaked a long time ago, which they were, you would think that the Lightning would have released them by now. So I'm kind of hoping, or what I'm thinking is the case, is that the leaked jerseys were the base. And even if they were going to release them like that and then realized it wasn't a good idea and now have gone back and added things on them, I don't think they're going to look like what was leaked. I think something was definitely added on top of them, whether that was the plan originally or not. So I'm excited, though. I think we'll see it in the next couple of days, unless the Lightning just lost their other helmets and wore the black ones temporarily. But we'll see, and it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, it will be. So I think that's going to wrap it up here for us. This episode is Thunderstruck. Sorry, I got ahead of myself a little bit there. But anyways, have a good week, and we'll see you all next week.